Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel. Today we're going to do a fall garden walkthrough with my dad. He's going to explain a few things that he does as he puts his garden to rest for the winter. So I hope you enjoy this. Here we go.
All right. So this is the corn area here, the sweet corn. And you see the drip lines, they're spaced every 2 feet apart. And then there's these little staples that hold them down so that the drip lines don't blow around in the wind. And then you just plant corn, one on either side of the drip lines. And the seeds, I space them 9 to 10 inches apart. And that way you can get quite a bit of corn in a small area. I wouldn't go any closer than 2 feet apart on these drip lines. It'd be too crowded. And this is pretty tight spacing the way it is. So and each row has, each drip tape has a little valve here you can turn on and turn off. And that way you can control the water flow depending on germination and what you're doing, trying to get seed germinated or whatever. So it comes in handy to have a little valve there. They're really inexpensive. And we'll be putting mulch on this here pretty quick and giving it a cover up for the winter time. But let's just see what it looks like before we put the mulch on.
We're going to do a video where we explain why Dad likes to mulch versus doing cover crops. And also we're going to do a video going over the drip system and some more details on that.
Yeah. And here we got the little trellis, just stock panels. That's for the peas. And then on this row here, I planted celery on this side of it. Celery likes to have shade, not be in the hot sun, and we get really hot temperatures here in the summertime. And so with the corn on this side, and we got peppers on this side, gives them, and then the peas on the trellis, it gave them a little bit too much of shade. So maybe next year I won't put the celery in this spot just because it was a little too shaded for it. They still produced all right, but not as good as they could have. So it's just one of the things we learn as we go along. And so we got little peas on this side, a row of peas, and then right next to that, last year I just let peppers grow and then die down, and then I cut them off right at the ground level. I never pull roots out of the ground. You always leave the roots in the ground. It's helpful for all the microbes in the ground, and helps aerate the soil a bit.
I see a few lettuce coming up here and there.
Yeah, there's lettuce
Can you tell
here,
us about that?
Volunteer lettuce. There's lettuce all over the place. I always let a couple lettuces go to seed, and they just sprinkle, the wind blows them around, and we get volunteer lettuce everywhere, and those will be the first ones up in the spring, and we'll have a good early crop. But we just cut these pepper plants down, cut them off right at the ground level, and just lay them down flat on top so it kind of covers the ground. You never want to have bare soil during the winter time. You always want it covered. So that's what we do with the peppers. And there's, all my beds are pretty much 4 feet wide, and I run 3 drip lines down each bed. And so this next spring, this will be all volunteer peppers that'll come up from these old plants that have gone to seed and drop their old peppers, and they'll sprout, and we'll have a volunteer pepper patch. And they seem to do really well that way. This bed here this year was winter storage onions, and pretty much do the same thing with these. We put the seeds on either side of the drip tape, and then we thin them to about 4 inches apart for the onions. And so you get 6 rows of onions here, and so you get a lot of onions. And we'll be putting straw mulch on that here shortly too. And then after the onions came out here, we planted some cilantro, and that's already gone now and taken care of. And I don't remember what else was in here. Maybe some lettuce. But yeah, we try to do succession crops as much as we can.
Dad, back on the corn back there, you were telling me that you don't till your corn or you don't yank out the roots.
Yeah.
Can you explain that in more detail maybe?
Well, we don't do any tilling at all here. And so usually by the time springtime comes around, time to plant again, these corn roots will be decomposed good enough that you can just kind of hoe right through them and plant right on top of wherever they were. And
that's one of the reasons you do that is because of the mycorrhizae in the
yeah, it's
soil.
still attached to the roots, and it'll be in the soil. And
you don't want to disrupt that structure.
No.
And because that helps the next corn to flourish.
Yeah.
The new crop.
And you can see I don't know if you can tell in the video, but there's chicken manure on here from the chicken house. Corn takes a lot of nitrogen, and you can really pour it on and it doesn't hurt them at all. I've put a lot of chicken manure on and they do great. That's one of the few crops that you can put on a lot of nitrogen and not hurt anything. And this bed here, you can see there's celery down there. We harvested most of it in this bed. We kind of keep at that end on these 3 beds because that compost roof kind of gives them a little bit of shade in the summertime, and that's what the celery needs, just a little bit of shade. And these, we had garlic planted down the middle of this bed here this year, and we've harvested that, of course, and then we planted corn after the garlic came out, and that also gave a little bit of shade to, we had lettuce running down either side here, and that helps shade the lettuce, and so it doesn't bolt so fast. So that's kind of what was in that bed.
Corn in the center, lettuce on the sides?
Yes. And then this bed is strawberries. And with the strawberries, I always interplant onions with them in between each strawberry plant. And they do really well that way. The Walla Walla Sweets we put in there, they're not a long keeper at all. But if you put them in with strawberries, I found that they keep longer. I don't know why, but that's what I've discovered. So I always put some in the strawberries just to make them last a little longer. And then, of course, the celery was down there at the end there. And we had 24-degree weather so far at night. And
what are these hoops?
I put a row cover over the top of this and to protect it. And it's done pretty well. You can see there's some frost damage. That stuff over there, that celery there wasn't covered as well, and it took more damage. But the stuff in the hoop here, you can kind of see it's still standing upright, and it's still got nice stalks on there. So it did all right. We just haven't had room to put it in the freezer yet. Our freezers are full. Otherwise, we'd have it harvested by now. And the next bed is just my only Hugelkultur bed. I dug that out and put a bunch of wood under there, a bunch of logs and branches and that kind of thing, and then covered it up with dirt. And everything grows good in here. If I had the energy and the materials, I would do it on all my beds. Everything grows very well in this Hugelkultur bed. But it does take more work, and the bigger the logs you put in there, the longer it's going to last. And this has been in here about 4 or 5 years now, and it's done very well. And that was another bit of lettuce in there. Plus we had tomatoes in here, and I had a trellis in the middle here with tomatoes on it. And there was potatoes growing on one side, and I don't remember, cucumbers on the other side. Anyway, it's too much stuff. I had it too compact and trying to get too much out of one small area. Then we just took all that out and put in lettuce, and that's been harvested now. And this bed here is just cilantro. As you can see, it's still growing, looking pretty good for this time of year. It was wildflowers, pollination type flowers attract pollinators, and so when those came out, I just put in cilantro. It's probably had a couple of different plantings of cilantro in it so far, but that'll be left for the winter, and it'll just kind of cover the soil, and it won't all die usually. It'll come up in the springtime, and we'll have new early growth cilantro in the spring. This bed here, we got garlic planted down the center of this one now. Oh, there's watermelons and honeydews in here. That's what it was.
How did they do?
They did fine. They did good. I just let them sprawl kind of and try to keep them in the bed so we're not walking on them in the pathways.
I notice you have a lot of bark in your pathways. Can you tell us why you do that?
It just keeps the mud off the shoes, and they're not tracking mud everywhere, and I don't like walking in muddy garden. And this is just sawdust from the local sawmill. It's big enough chips that it doesn't blow around with the wind, and so it makes a nice walkway and easy to put down.
Does it keep the weeds down a little bit?
Yeah, it keeps the weeds down, but with the drip system, you really don't have much weed problem. This bed was all carrots. They've all been dug, and then the tops have been put over for a mulch over the top for the winter time. So those are, we got a lot of carrots, and those are planted the same way, a row on either side of each drip tape, and then we thin them to about 2 inches apart, and a lot of good carrots. Turned out really well. And we haven't had to cover them for the carrot root weevil this year. They did fine. We didn't have any problem with bugs. And this bed has another row of garlic down the center right now. And this started out as I had hoops over here, and we planted all the broccoli and cabbage and cauliflower and with a row cover over it. And that keeps all your aphids, all your cabbage looper little caterpillars off of them. It makes beautiful crop of broccoli, cabbage, and cauliflower. And once that came out, then we planted corn in here. This is all corn. And once the corn came out now, we got garlic growing in here. Hasn't come up yet, which is fine. We don't really want it up yet. So it'll be up before springtime. And this row is peppers, and then there's zucchini down at that end and crickneck down at that end.
Got a blueberry plant here.
This is just kind of a miscellaneous blueberry bush I didn't want to throw away, so I stuck it there.
So I see you leave all your peppers in place.
Yeah, that way you get all the seeds and they'll grow, and we'll have volunteer peppers there. I used open pollinated peppers, so you can just let the seeds go and reproduce the next year. So that's kind of it for these beds here. Now there is, over here there's asparagus. You'll see the asparagus growing over here. And this is the second year on this asparagus since I planted it. It's done really well. Next year we start the harvest food and get the asparagus spears off of it. So we're anxious to have that for next year. But it looks like it's done very well.
Let's have a look at that down low here.
It's it's done really good for the second year. And once these totally die back and dry up, I will cut them down and lay them right on top for a cover, a mulch for the winter time. I always figure that it's best to put the plant residue back on the ground, because those plants had pulled up all the nutrients that it needed for that particular crop. And why put it somewhere else? You might as well put it right back on the ground and refurbish the ground with the nutrients from those old plants. So that's pretty much what I do with everything. Even the tomato vines, I compost those and then I'll put the compost back on the ground. So, and I don't really practice rotation, crop rotation much. The plants are healthy, and there's no need to do crop rotation. And over here we've got blueberries and interplanted with strawberries, and you can see that the strawberries have done really well. They produce a lot of berries.
What kind of bed is this? It seems like it's pretty raised and built up.
Yeah, that was just a lot of dirt that we brought over from the old place where we moved from. I didn't want to throw away the good dirt, so we brought it with us and made a mound. And it's got a lot of bark in it, and pretty much that's what it is a lot of bark. And then we cover it with a netting during the summer so that we get the berries and the birds don't get it. It's just kind of a makeshift hokey pokey thing.
Made out of 1/2-inch EMT conduit, looks like.
Yeah, they were hoops over the blueberry bushes at the old place, and I just unbent them and made a cover for them here. So
That works.
It works, but it's, maybe someday I'll make something nicer. And we got some seedless table grapes here, and they're productive. They do good. And in between these grapes and these raspberries, you can see all this compost and plant material. If the compost bins are full, I just throw all the other plants in here, let them compost, kind of like strip composting, they call it. And so that's pretty fertile soil down in that pathway. And then these are blackberries, raspberries, red and yellow. And we put a net over those too as well, so we get the berries and the birds don't get them. I'm not that generous. Don't want to share my berries with the birds. And next we have the potato area, and I've found that the drip lines don't do as good a job on potatoes. It just doesn't, the water doesn't spread far enough. It just doesn't work as good. And so I put in the overhead MP rotators here, and it works much better. I get a lot better crop, bigger potatoes, healthier plants.
So they seem to like overhead watering.
Yeah, they just do a lot better with the overhead. And we'll be putting straw mulch on here shortly too, and that'll all be covered up. And then the next large area here is the bush beans. I did plant a couple rows of corn in here, and the rest of it's all bush beans, and they did exceptionally well this year. We only had to do 1 or 1.5 pickings, and we had all the beans we needed for the year, and we freeze them, and so it was an extremely productive year for the beans, mainly because of the compost that we've put on here and the way we treat the soil with no-till. Things are very productive, and you don't have any disease issues. Everything grows very well. And I just mowed them all down with a lawnmower when we were done picking, and you can see there's a layer of plant residue on the ground there. And then there's volunteer beans that popped up from the seeds that mowed over, and we just let them go, and the frost got them, and so it's just extra plant material on the soil. And then over here there's a tomato trellis for tomatoes. All of my eating tomatoes I grow out here, most of them. So you can see this trellis here, and we run a whole row of tomatoes down here, spaced every 16 inches apart, and then there's twines, 2 twines for each plant, and so there's 2 main leaders for each plant that go up and tie to these things, and then we use those little plastic tomato clips
You have
clip
one
the
laying
vines.
around?
Yeah, this is a tomato clip here, and it just pinches the string right in here. The twine goes right in that crack right there, and then it just snaps over there like that, and then holds it up under the twine.
That's how you train the tomato plants onto the twine.
And then on this bed, I plant cucumbers on this side. The south side of this row. This runs east and west, and right here we plant cucumbers, and I planted some corn, and watermelons and honeydews along here to grow up here, and they also go up on the strings here on the twine, and it shades the tomatoes so you don't get that sun scald on the tomatoes. You don't want to put too many plants along here. You don't want too much shade, but you just want some shade so that they don't get sun scald. And then there's a shade cloth on top. I think it's 30% shade cloth is what I use up on top, shade them from the top. And they do very well. A lot of tomatoes. We have hundreds and hundreds of pounds of tomatoes to make tomato soup and share with others.
Yeah, I get some too. It's great. So I see you're watering the system for the potatoes over here, this overhead watering. It's all on top of the ground.
Yeah.
Why is that?
In case I wanted
Ease
to
of
move it.
moving?
Yeah, in case I want to move it sometime to a different location, it'd be easy to just pick up and move.
Yeah.
And it's just 1-inch pipe. Very simple and very easy to make. So, and this is kind of the beginning of the drip system down here. You got the pressure regulator and the filter, but we can go over that in another video. So I think that's about it for the walk through in the garden here today. We didn't cover the compost pile, the compost bins.
Let's go get some of that. I'm sure some of the viewers on YouTube would like to see how you do compost.
These are a 3 bins system, and that kitty cat's in there. She's catching mice if there's any mice in there. She's
Hey. And staying warm.
Yeah, staying warm. So these boards come off the front like this, just lift off like that. They're all just
Oh, they're captive in the groove there.
yeah, just lift off like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that way you can empty them easier, and you're not bending over the front of it so far. And so I fill up one bin, and then I'll turn it and fill up another bin, and it'll all shrink down, and we'll blend them together and just keep turning. I'm not scientific about it. I just put it in there and keep it turned and until it breaks down and ready to go in the garden. And I keep a roof over this thing so we don't have the rain coming in and adding too much moisture.
So this is your first stage?
Yeah, that's the first stage there. Just got some grass clippings, and this stuff has been here in this bin for a little while.
Oh, what's that device?
Oh, that's just the thermometer.
Wonder what it's saying there.
It's cooled down now. See, it's starting to break down. Pretty black stuff here. So it's getting broken down. It's not too far from being done.
Looking good.
So that's the compost setup that I use.
Thank you, Dad, for doing that garden walkthrough. I really enjoyed that. I hope all of you guys enjoy that too. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comment section below. Please don't forget to subscribe. It really helps our channel to grow and helps us produce more content that is helpful to you. Give us a thumbs up. Let us know if you have any other subjects of interest or topics you'd like us to do a video on. And I will see you in the next one. And remember, Jesus loves you.